so we might have to defer anything from there. I'd like to welcome everybody again once more. I think that I'm going to go ahead and let our DHHS people speak first to share any topic, even besides COVID, and ask them if they have anything they'd like our laboratorians throughout the state to know. Does anybody have something they'd like to share with us?
Well, this is Robin Williams from the state. Moving forward, the public health lab will only be testing healthcare workers who have been exposed, symptomatic healthcare workers who have been exposed. And hold on, I want to make sure I have the, any symptomatic hospitalized patient suspected of COVID, and an initial case for residents and staff at nursing homes just to determine if an outbreak is happening. Also, residents and staff at group homes or homeless shelters to define if an outbreak is happening. All follow-up testing must be done by Test Nebraska. We still want to support testing by FQHCs and tribal health centers. So please get in touch with the state to determine the best route to get testing done for that population. It may be with NPHL or it may be with a different testing entity. So those are the only patients that can be tested for COVID at the public health lab. Moving forward, there will be a HON that's coming out that says all of this information. It's being reviewed right now for final distribution. So hopefully that stuff doesn't change. But at this time, that's the only capacity Public Health Lab has to perform COVID testing. So everything else must be done either with Test Nebraska or through another commercial laboratory. So when you're submitting requests for specimen collection kits, those are the only patients and or situations that you can use kits that you order from the Public Health Lab. And we will be having a REDCap survey to order those rather than filling out that form. And all of that information will be in the HON as to how to change that up. Until the HON comes out, please continue doing what you're doing, submitting to the local health department for approval, and we'll get those out to you to be used only for these purposes.
Thank you, Robin. I have a question that I'd like to bring forward from the chat box. Elizabeth asks what the turnaround time is at NPHL. I know it is not what we used to be able to do. It is more than 24 hours, possibly even up to 72 hours or more. John, I see you're on too, and please correct me if I'm wrong on that statement.
Yeah, over at NPHL, the turnaround time, once the specimen is, in the hands of the laboratorians here, it's rare for it to take more than 36 hours. The only exception to that is in the unlikely event that we get specimens at, that arrive at RPS and that are set aside for the lab team on, say, a Friday afternoon, a Friday evening, or maybe a Saturday morning. Those won't be run until Monday. But general turnaround times are 24 hours once it's in the lab, 48 hours once it arrives on the UNMC Nebraska Medicine campus and is being processed for intake here.
Yes, thank you. And I suspect, I know from talking to others that a number of the other large facilities are in that same turnaround time. Test Nebraska, I think, has been just as busy as we are, and sometimes can get it out earlier, but it doesn't They promise people 72 hours. All right. So, thank you. I hear some reverberation, so I wonder if you could all just make sure you're muted. That'll help us a lot. Thank you. But don't hesitate. If you have a question, we really would like you to ask it at any point where you feel comfortable. So, is there any other outbreaks that you'd like to share, Brianna?
Sure.
Great.
But I think maybe a week or so ago, I talked about the Cyclospora outbreak, multi-state. So Nebraska is currently at, looking here, we have 67 cases reported of Cyclospora, and currently we have 60 of those cases being linked to the multi-state outbreak with the bagged lettuce. FDA is still trying to figure out which ingredient it was in the bagged lettuce. They have ruled out the carrots, so they're looking at the lettuce or cabbage currently.
Okay.
But we've definitely seen a decrease in cases being reported here. It's maybe like 1 or 2 cases being reported compared to like 10 per week. So glad that's going down. And then also new in the last week, CDC posted a multi-state outbreak of Salmonella Newport, and that is rapidly growing. Nebraska currently has 5 cases in this outbreak, and there's the vehicle is currently unknown, but we are narrowing it down to tomatoes, onions, ground beef, cilantro, typical ingredients you would get at a Mexican-style restaurant. However, none of Nebraska's, well, 1 Nebraska case reported eating at a Mexican-style restaurant. So, it might be looking more on like a commercially distributed product sold at grocery stores or to restaurants. So, still working on that investigation and foresee more cases coming in that will be linked to this outbreak. So just a reminder for labs to make sure you're submitting your Salmonella positives to NPHL so we can get those genotyped and know the serotype and get those linked if there's any out there to the current outbreak. So it's super helpful to have the laboratory information linked with the epi information. So it just makes our data so much stronger. So that is all going on for outbreaks. Is there any questions?
I just wanted to add to that. It's unfortunate that both of these are happening during the time of COVID, simply because my question might be, do they have similar symptoms, or how can you distinguish them if you had to do symptom only?
Are you talking about between Cyclospora or Salmonella, or sorry, what is your?
Both of them, really. How do they differ from the COVID? Sorry.
Well, for Cyclospora, there's it can be a very long lag period from the time that you ingest the parasite to when you see symptoms. It can be, an average is about 7 days from when you ingest the parasite to when you see symptoms. So, it could be a week already when people are starting to see symptoms, and then even possibly up to another week for people to go to the doctor, and then sometimes another week for it to get reported. So there's a very long lag period with Cyclospora, but it's, watery diarrhea is the most common, loss of appetite, weight loss, cramping, fatigue, sometimes fever. And with Salmonella, it's definitely a shorter incubation period compared to Cyclospora, anywhere between 6 hours sometimes, but typically 1 to 3 days is the incubation of a salmonella. Symptoms, you know, fever, diarrhea, sometimes bloody stool, stomach cramps. Yeah, I mean, I just think it's important from the provider side to ask some of these questions, since, you know, we're in the peak of enteric season. You know, did you travel anywhere? Any recent gatherings? Any food products that you know that you've consumed that are contaminated? When we sent out that Cyclospora HON, it seemed like cases were just rolling in because doctors knew to ask that question. Did you have any bagged lettuce, specifically from Hy-Vee? You know, that really helps, especially when EPIs are checking with knee high. We can already see that information, like, yep, the case ate bagged lettuce. So that really, really helps. So
yeah. Okay, thank you, Brianna. That's interesting. Does anybody else have questions for Brianna, specifically on those two outbreaks that we have in Nebraska? I don't have anything on chat box, but you're welcome to chime in. All right, thank you. Anything else from any other of our DHHS partners? Hearing none, then we'll go ahead and continue on. So I think I just wanted to share a few things regarding some of the things I've learned this week. I had some very interesting webinars. One of them was about the packaging and shipping, but I do know that there's a few others out there, and I wanted to share the websites in which I'm getting this information from, not just about packaging and shipping, but other items that I feel are useful. So let me bring up here, the CDC has what's called the Division of Laboratory Systems, the DLS, and I think that they're really truly trying to be out there and accommodating with information from the CDC straight to our laboratorians. And so they've had quite a few weekly calls, at least maybe sometimes bi-weekly. These particular calls can be assessed or accessed from here. Some of the different resources and questions. I also know that, if I can find it, yeah, they are also posting some information on some of the questions that have come up about the updated laboratory reporting guidance. Some of you have had a number of questions about this topic. I think that there was rumor at one time that it was supposed to start maybe a week or two ago, but that has not happened. They are still working on some of the provisions, especially these ask on order entry questions. Some of the questions have been kind of hard to answer, specifically what device code maybe a positive has been tested on, and they don't really have those device codes out yet. So I know that's one thing that we're waiting for, and when it is available, I know that they will make an announcement about it, and we will also be forwarding that information. Robin will then be sharing more regarding reporting as well. Robin, is there anything more I should say to that?
Not at this time. I think you covered it. You know, we'll be. Nope, I think you did good. Does anybody have any specific questions about that?
And just to share, if you don't have questions, if you want to look into these, I know that my packaging and shipping was July 20th, and they still don't have it posted. Well, maybe they do, but they don't have the transcript yet. But no, they don't. But it's been kind of nice that you can go back. You can go to back months, and they will share both the recording for it and the transcript as well. Too bad they didn't put down the topic of each one, but that's available for you ever since the March dates. You're welcome to look into that. So I did post those here on our agenda, and yeah, I keep wanting to put this out, and I promise I'll get this out this week so that you can see those links. In regards, I'm going to say packaging and shipping until later, but in regards to the baseline testing, I have been in touch with our partners there that have been working. Dustin, see if I can attempt his name, Zabtorski. It is under his direction, and he has promised that he will join us someday. All he could share today, he did have a meeting, so he wasn't able to join today, but the CEO of DHHS is working on the next phase so that it can be released, and they'll announce how testing will work in that next phase. And I'm assuming they're talking about long-term care and assisted living and group homes as such. So any questions about baseline testing and long-term those? Any testing that has happened in your neighborhood for your long-term cares? Okay, that's good. Then we'll go on. And I just wanted to share that, well, John, since Pete and Emily are not here, do you know what our status is as far as maybe for sure inventory, but even testing, if you have any good words?
I don't think that there's a whole lot to be said about inventory. The Public Health Lab is thankfully able to avoid a lot of the supply shortages going on right now. We've managed to luck out with a relatively diverse selection of machines that we're running these specimens on. So the big issues that I know a lot of labs are running into right now are Hologic and to a lesser extent Abbott and Roche. It's been very difficult for a lot of labs, and many of it had to turn down specimens or testing capacity just for lack of reagents or consumable plastics. On the other hand, NPHL is largely running at capacity or very near it every day. We're trying to push through about 450 specimens, the results for 450 specimens out each day, and leave on Friday with a 0 specimen backlog. And we've been able to do that by and large every day for the last, getting on a month now, I would say. So everybody's pulling their weight here. Everybody's doing a lot of work, and they're working hard, making sure that all the specimens and results get out.
Thank you, John. I can attest to that too. They are here late hours some days, but I was not aware that Fridays they've been able to catch up on that backload. So that's really exciting news. But do have to remind people that if you need testing on Friday, that really those specimens have to be here by, I think we said 11 o'clock. It's I would almost recommend maybe getting them here by 9 o'clock so we can get it through the processing or our client services, which is in a different building. So by the time we get it over here, it will take an hour or more. So let us know if you've got something that you have any questions about for our testing, and we'd be happy to help. Just give us a call. Any questions about testing at NPHL? I think a couple were asking about, again, what our turnaround time is. And sometimes we're right at 24, but then with some of the larger volumes coming out, the beginning of the week, of course, that means that it may be 48, even possibly 72 hours. John, it hasn't been any worse than that, has it, though?
No, I don't think that I've heard of a situation where it took longer than, next day, where, say a specimen arrived on Monday morning, it unfortunately was just at the back of the queue of specimens going in, so it was tested on Tuesday morning. That's the worst that I've heard at this point. So it might take, again, about 48 hours once it arrives in the lab.
All right. Well, that's better than my prediction, so I'm glad that you chimed in to correct me there. Thank you, John. Okay. In speaking of the criteria that NPHL uses to accept specimens, I did literally put up our draft earlier as Robin talked. Again, we are both working on this together, and when DHHS gives the final approval, we'll go ahead and send that all out to you, and also hope that we can put it on our website right away. It is long overdue. I think the last time we changed anything out was unfortunately April, so we would like to get that back on. So sorry I'm playing around here, but I will try to get back into there we go, our agenda. The only other thing I wanted to bring up was a very interesting Department of Transportation FAMSA webinar that occurred. And unfortunately, they did a decent job talking to laboratorians, if you were one of them, to catch on. But I think they left a few questions hanging as well. But just to review, what they're saying is a guide, they've put out guides to package your category B specimens. It does have to be triple packaged. That outer package has to be rigid. And what I have learned is it has to be either cardboard, an acceptable cardboard, wood, or a hard plastic. And those are our options at this point for packaging and shipping. When it comes to actually labeling the specimen, I don't like this particular example, nor do I like their example on the poster that they put out, because it doesn't show you need a full address. Yes, they put on there the responsible person. I think that was one of the questions that a lot of us had, is we're used to putting responsible person on only for category A. So the person who ships versus the person who is actually responsible for that package might be two different people, and that's quite okay. But category A, it definitely has to be listed. Now they're mentioning that they would like the responsible person also listed here. If that is your shipper, you can put that on your contact line as responsible shipper in parentheses behind your name, or write it elsewhere beneath the symbol there, the UM3370. But it does have to have that label as well as the marking biological substance category B there. The client service people, I don't know, Teresa or Tony or Jess, if you are on, we are working to try to find a good system, possibly an overpack system that might work to transport yet not be too cumbersome for you as well as the courier, because the couriers don't want a million little boxes. So we're hoping some of these larger collections, you can find a bigger box, or we can provide you with a bigger box. And I am more than happy to provide you a box. Just give me 2 days, 3 days ahead of time notice. It will be pre-labeled with your name and address and our name and address. So that is all that needs to be filled out. These are some of the slides that came from the webinar that I actually listened to. I'm looking forward to actually seeing the slides and maybe share a little bit more with you. I also put on that if you can find your own insulated box, if you want to, and it's good and sturdy, that you're allowed to purchase labels, but just make sure that that label comes in one of these formats that you are allowed to put on your box. Again, make sure you have your full shipper's name, address, and a phone number, as well as our NPHL full address, our phone number to be contacted in case the courier has any questions, and that it is triple packaged. So that's the information that we got from that. But again, there are a lot more questions that we hope as state training coordinators, a number of the state training coordinators across the United States will be working with DOT directly to talk about some of our concerns and questions that will just be a lot more useful for our laboratorians. So that's really all I had to share about packaging and shipping right now. Does anybody have questions about packaging and shipping? We are definitely trying to get away from using just styrofoam. That is no longer allowed. Unfortunately, not even the hard plastic round vessels that you'll find in ours, simply because it doesn't have our full name and you as a shipper's full name, address, contact information. And again, it does have to be triple packaged. One thing we did learn, some questions have come up about the special envelope, not the white envelope that I send out, but there is a special envelope that Teresa brought up one day called the KP95, or the 95 KP bag. And that is a special bag, usually clear, but it is used only for air transport. So if you do send your specimens to NPHL by FedEx, which I'm not aware of anybody doing that yet, that you can use that as a secondary package. You would put your specimen in there, put it in this 95 kPa bag, and then put it in a rigid outer container. So those are some of the things that we have learned from that. Any questions then from the audience? I don't see anything on chat. Don't forget to unmute if you do have questions. Hearing none, then just a reminder, future trainings, the BT Lunch and Learns that I had, we did have 3 of them. The first one is on our website. I've had some problems with our webmaster putting the other 2 on. It's not been very timely, but those will hopefully be available this week. So if you have registered for it, I would love to see that you finish the project through. Go ahead and look through, continue to look at the NPHL website to find those. And then I will need documentation, either via your supervisor or another colleague, that you have watched these, just to be sure. And then after you've watched all 3, there will be a short 20-question exam. It's open book. I hope that you will find it useful. There are PACE credits with it as well. So that will be available for at least another month or 2. Hope you guys do have time to look into that training. The BT training are for all of you that might read out microbiology plates and maybe only just do gram stains. Gram stains, you do need to be aware of what you're looking at to be suspicious of either anthrax or one of the Brucella or Francisella tiny gram-negative coccobacilli organisms. So we go through this, and then for those of you who do full microbiology workup, we would prefer that you only do the ones listed in our flow charts, our BT flow charts, because we don't want you to do any more work with them than absolutely necessary. In fact, we hope that you really would stop at that point and then send or contact us first. And we will talk it over to see if it needs literally to be sent to NPHL. Once it's confirmed, if you accidentally put it on the MALDI, or any of your other systems or do sequencing with it, then you have confirmed it. And you are not allowed to send it through the mail. So that could be very problematic. CDC usually asks a lot of questions in that case. So we really do prefer that you strictly do the testing recommended, and only that testing recommended through the flow charts, and then follow through with sending it to NPHL so that we can confirm for you. All right, any questions about BT training? LPX, for our laboratories who are doing the CAP laboratory preparedness exercise, that I believe is due this week sometime. And we are going to go ahead and have a post-conference like we've always done, so everybody can discuss their results. Obviously, we discuss those results only after everybody has submitted their results to the College of Pathology Association. So we are tentatively planning on a Wednesday at noon. So August 5th, put that on your calendars. I'll try to send out a calendar invite as well. I'd love to have everybody join us for that, because we really do try to do some discussion about it. The actual CAP results are not out yet. They usually don't come out until several weeks or possibly months. And I always am fearful that you tend to forget what you've done by then. You definitely have it written down, but I think it would behoove us all to work through each one individually and to learn from each other's mistakes. And mistakes happen. So it's always a good training, and these are not graded, so it's good to share. All right, challenge set. We are going to hold off a little bit until more media is made. We are running short and of motility media and have not had time to make it. So we have extended the due date or the expiration date of our motility media that's out in the field for at least 3 months. And so we are going to hold off until, and we did that primarily for our LPX laboratory users, but the challenge set, I think I'd like to hold off. You may only have one challenge set this year. I know you'll be so disappointed though. As far as packaging and shipping, I think that I'm going to do that one-on-one. So please check your staff's shipping certification, especially if you do any category A. And I would love to entertain a review session so that you can be certified. Give me a call if you're interested. Any other questions or recommendations for future trainings? All right. That's all I have. Last call for open mic. Everybody's very sleepy, I understand. It's Monday. All right, thank you everyone for joining. Our next broadcast date will be Monday, August 10th. And that again will be at 10 o'clock Central Time, 9 Mountain, if you can join us.
Thanks so much,
Dr.
Karen.
Safranek, you're on.
Hi, Karen.
Hi. Do you have any last minute words for us before we sign off?
Very stressful times for everybody, and it doesn't seem to be diminishing. I want to express my gratitude and the need for collaboration and mutual support amongst everybody. The lab testing for COVID remains an extreme challenge. It's just a mystery why we haven't been able to turn this into a readily available test at all of our clinical laboratories. So very much appreciate the challenges and the stresses that our laboratory community is experiencing and trying to provide that service. I know how desperately you want to be of service to the providers and the communities you serve. So thank you very much.
You bet. Thank you for that good word. I know that a number of our laboratories are definitely trying. We get a lot of questions. We do offer validation organisms. If anybody's been able to bring up their systems, we kind of wait until you have your system up, and we'll send you validating organisms. So we'd love to help you if you can get the equipment, the reagents and such. We truly believe it's a good thing to do to get this out into the community, as Dr. Safranek has said. So any last minute questions? All right. Don't forget to sign in. I'll stay here a minute or two longer. Sign in to the chat box. I'd love to have it recorded that you were able to join us today. So take care all and have a great week. We'll see you in 2. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Karen.
got a minute for me.